My name is Rachel Morgan. I'm 31 years old and currently working as the lead architect at one of Boston's most prestigious firms. I design buildings that people admire, structures that stand tall, clean, and balanced. Ironically, nothing about my family life has ever felt that solid or well built. From the outside, the Morgans are the picture of perfection. On social media, we're that family, the one with matching outfits at charity galas, tropical vacations with pristine beaches, and holiday tables overflowing with golden roasted turkeys and carefully wrapped gifts. My parents, Gregory and Evelyn Morgan, have mastered the art of appearing flawless. They are beloved in their community, my father, a highly respected attorney with a taste for vintage scotch. My mother, a celebrated socialite whose Instagram feed is a curated masterpiece of brunches, garden parties, and luxury. Then there's Mia, my younger sister, 5 years my junior. She's effortlessly beautiful, wildly charming, and always the center of attention. Mia is the family's crown jewel, a social media influencer with thousands of followers who adore her curated lifestyle of designer clothes, spontaneous road trips, and relatable coffee shop moments. To the world, she's the perfect daughter. To my parents, she's their pride. To me, she's a complicated mix of sibling love, endless comparison, and a lifetime of being second place. While Mia spent her early 20s traveling and building her online brand, I was quietly working 70-hour weeks, climbing the corporate ladder, building the life I wanted without family support. I've been fully independent since I was 18, paying my way through college, securing scholarships, building my career brick by brick. Still, my mother always made it clear I was too rigid, too career-focused, too distant from what she called the joys of living. You need to loosen up. Rachel, she would say with a gentle but cutting tone, life is about more than just work and numbers. Look at Mia, she really knows how to live. For years, I accepted this quiet dismissal, believing that maybe being the reliable one meant being invisible. That illusion shattered on a cold December afternoon. I was scrolling through my phone during a quick coffee break when a live stream notification from an old high school friend popped up. Out of curiosity, I clicked. There they were, my entire family gathered in the grand dining hall of our family estate, the crystal chandeliers glowing, the laughter echoing. But this wasn't just another family dinner. It was Mia's engagement party, complete with a towering cake, champagne toasts, and dozens of relatives. I wasn't invited. No text, no call, no explanation. I watched them celebrate a milestone without me, smiling for the cameras, pretending to be the perfect family. The betrayal hit me harder than I expected. Not because I wanted their approval, I'd long stopped chasing that, but because this was no accident. I wasn't forgotten. I was excluded. And that was the moment everything started to unravel. I kept replaying the live stream in my mind, each perfect smile and clinking champagne glass pressing deeper into my ribs like a blunt blade. They didn't forget me. They didn't miss me. I wasn't part of the picture by design. And as I tried to process that truth, life, as if on cue, sent me the next blow. A few days after Mia's engagement party, I arrived home to find a thick envelope waiting in my mailbox. There was no card, no handwritten note, just my name and address scrawled in my mother's delicate handwriting on the front. For a fleeting second, I thought perhaps this was their weak attempt at an apology, a formal invitation to some follow-up event, maybe even a begrudging olive branch, I was foolish enough to hope. Inside, I found no apology. Instead, there was a packet of loan documents from a luxury car dealership. The top page was an invoice for a brand new BMW X5, total price $70,000. The purchaser, Mia Morgan. The co-signer, Rachel Morgan. My signature sat neatly at the bottom of the page, identical to mine in every way, except I had never signed it. For a moment, I just stared at the papers, convinced there had to be some mistake. Maybe Mia listed me by accident. Maybe the dealership had some sort of clerical error. Maybe anything but the most obvious explanation. But when I flipped through the remaining pages, I found the answer waiting for me in the form of a handwritten note from Mia, scribbled in her signature bubbly handwriting. Thanks for helping me with the new car. Rach, you're the best big sister Mom said you wouldn't mind since you're doing so well these days. Let's sort out the payment schedule later. Love you. Love you. The words landed like a punch. The audacity, the entitlement, the absolute certainty that I would simply comply, it all snapped into focus. They didn't ask. They decided. They forged my signature. They put me on the hook for a luxury car without a second thought. I called my mother immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice as breezy as if we were chatting about the weather. Rachel, darling, how are you? Have you seen Mia's new car? Gorgeous, isn't it? It's exactly what she needed. I cut her off, my voice trembling. Mom, why am I listed as the co-signer? I never signed those documents. A brief pause. Then her tone sharpened just slightly. Oh, well, you know how these things go. Your father signed for you. It's just paperwork. We knew you'd be willing to help. You forged my signature. That's fraud. Her sigh was long, deliberate, patronizing. Please don't be dramatic. This is what family does. We help each other. You're the only one in the family who can afford it. There it was, the underlying expectation that had shadowed my entire life. Because I had worked hard and built something on my own, I owed them access to it. My success was theirs to divide, their safety net, their endless credit line. Mia needed that car. Rachel, she's in a new phase of life now, engaged, building her future. This is important for her image. So am I just here to fund her image? My only role is to be her invisible sponsor. Don't start with that, my mother snapped, her patience thinning. You're her sister. She's counting on you. We all are. When I didn't respond, she softened her voice. You've always been the strong one. Mia is sensitive. She needs your support. You know how hard life has been for her. I nearly laughed. Mia, who had floated through life shielded from consequence, was now apparently in hardship because she wanted a luxury car she couldn't afford. Over the next 2 days, the messages from Mia came in rapid succession. First, the guilt. I thought you loved me. Why are you making this a big deal? I already posted about the car. Then on the pressure. People will think I'm a liar if I can't keep the car. Please don't do this to me. Finally, the entitlement. You make so much more than me. This doesn't even dent your income. Why are you being selfish? It would have been laughable if it didn't make me sick. I tried reasoning with her once. I explained the severity, the illegality, the betrayal. She brushed it off like I was being fussy over technicalities. When I called my father, hoping for logic, I found no refuge. Your mother handled it, he said curtly. Stop complicating things. I didn't agree to this. You would have if we'd asked properly. So, what's the difference? That sentence broke something in me. What's the difference? The difference is consent. The difference is respect. The difference is that I am not an endless resource you can siphon without permission. I stared at the paperwork again that night, turning the pages with numb fingers. I could feel the familiar pull, the conditioned urge to keep the peace, to absorb the hit, to avoid conflict. But I was done. The next morning, I scheduled a meeting with a lawyer. I needed to know my rights. I needed to know how to fight back. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to be the dependable one. I was going to be the one who said no. I walked into my lawyer's office with the weight of years pressing on my shoulders, but for the first time, I had no intention of carrying them any longer. I had spent my entire life absorbing the blows to keep the family peace. But now, I wanted to fight. I wasn't afraid of the truth anymore. The consultation was sobering. My lawyer, Natalie Hart, was patient but direct. She examined the forged documents, carefully noting the mismatched timelines, the inconsistencies in the ink, the clear digital trail that proved I never authorized the purchase. She explained in crisp, factual language that what my parents had done wasn't just unethical, it was a crime. Fraud, identity theft, bank fraud. I listened in silence as she laid out my options. Report the fraud to the dealership, the bank, the police. File civil claims. Freeze all accounts that might be linked to devices my family once had access to. It was a map of a battle I never thought I'd have to wage against people who were supposed to protect me. But as the legal plan took shape, my family began theirs. The smear campaign started almost immediately. My mother posted a carefully crafted Facebook status, dripping with passive-aggressive concern. It's heartbreaking when someone you love battles deep emotional instability and takes it out on those who only wanted to help. Please keep our family in your prayers as we support them through this difficult time. The comments poured in from friends, distant relatives, neighbors. Stay strong, Evelyn. Family is everything. We're sending love to you and Mia during this hard season. There was no mention of the car, no mention of the forgery, no mention of the truth. Suddenly, I was the unstable one, the selfish one, the ungrateful daughter. Mia took it a step further, crying in Instagram stories about betrayal, about being stabbed in the back by the person I thought would always protect me. She showed off the car in video after video, weaving a narrative that I had promised to buy it for her and was now trying to destroy her life out of jealousy. My phone lit up constantly with messages from mutual friends, some concerned, some accusatory. Even colleagues hesitantly asked if I was okay, if the rumors about me having a breakdown were true. The speed at which the story spread was terrifying. My mother's version of me, volatile, unstable, dangerous, was quickly becoming the only version some people knew. I switched off my phone and locked my social media accounts. Natalie's advice was clear: document everything, but don't engage. They wanted me to react emotionally. I wouldn't give them that. But the social assault was just the beginning. One evening, I logged into my savings account to confirm that all my financial protections were in place. What I found made my stomach drop. There had been an attempted withdrawal the night before a flagged transaction from a device still linked to my old phone's cloud backup. The same phone I had given to my father last year when I upgraded. He had tried to access my savings. He had tried to take my money directly. The violation was bone deep. I called the bank immediately, and they froze my accounts as a precaution. My financial safety was no longer hypothetical. It was under active attack. When I confronted my father about it, he didn't even flinch. "You had more than you needed," he said flatly, as though that justified everything. "You've always been obsessed with money. Maybe this will teach you how to share." My hands trembled with rage. "This isn't sharing. This is theft." His voice turned cold. "Family doesn't need the law. Family handles things internally. You brought this outside. You crossed the line. Rachel." It became clear that, in their eyes, I had committed the bigger crime, breaking the unspoken rule that their needs always came before my boundaries. 2 days later, I received an invitation, not a request, to attend a family dinner. It was labeled as a discussion to resolve misunderstandings. I knew it wasn't a discussion. It was an ambush. Normally, I would have refused. Normally, I would have avoided the confrontation, choosing silence over the inevitable emotional onslaught. But I wasn't the same Rachel anymore. I texted back a simple, "I'll be there." Not to explain, not to beg, not to win them back. I would go to that dinner to say the one thing I had never dared to say to them face to face. No. I walked into my parents' house exactly on time, just as I promised. I wasn't coming to beg for understanding. I wasn't coming to negotiate. I was coming to finally speak the words they had spent years training me not to say. The Morgan estate looked exactly as I remembered: immaculate, cold, polished to the point of sterility. The scent of expensive candles filled the air, a manufactured warmth that couldn't quite disguise the emotional frost beneath it. Through the grand dining room window, I could see Mia's BMW parked conspicuously in the driveway, practically staged for everyone to notice. My mother greeted me at the door with an air kiss, a performance for anyone who might be watching. "Rachel, darling, I'm so glad you've come. It's time we put this all behind us." I followed her into the dining room, where my father was already seated at the head of the long mahogany table, a glass of scotch in his hand. Mia sat opposite him, scrolling through her phone without looking up. Her face was carefully neutral, but her posture screamed impatience. "Sit down," Rachel, my father said, gesturing to the chair directly across from Mia. Your mother has prepared your favorite meal. Let's discuss this like adults. My so-called favorite meal sat steaming in front of me, beef stroganoff. I hated beef stroganoff. I had hated it since I was 12. It was Mia's favorite, but they had never bothered to notice the difference. My father straightened his cuffs, his voice measured, rehearsed. Your mother and I want to express our disappointment in how you've handled this situation, involving lawyers, filing fraud claims. That's not how our family resolves conflict. I looked at him, calm, steady. How does our family resolve conflict? Dad, by forging signatures, by draining savings accounts, by excluding me from family gatherings, and then expecting me to finance Mia's lifestyle. Mia dropped her fork with a clatter. Oh my God, are you still whining about Christmas? It wasn't even a big deal. It was just a small gathering. I leaned forward, my voice low and even. It was the entire extended family. It was an engagement party for you. You made sure I wasn't there. Mia's face twisted, her temper rising. You're so obsessed with making yourself the victim. You can't stand that people love me. You can't stand that I get attention. You've always been jealous of me. I didn't flinch. I had heard this script 100 times. My mother reached out to place a soothing hand on Mia's arm. Rachel, you've always had this unfortunate streak of bitterness. It's so unbecoming, especially for someone your age. Your sister is sensitive. Why must you always make things difficult for years? I would have folded under that tone. I would have apologized. I would have compromised. Not this time. I'm not paying for the car, I said quietly but firmly. But I've already reported the forgery to the bank and the dealership. My lawyer has the documentation. The car will be repossessed. I've frozen all my accounts and changed all security access. You won't be able to reach anything else. My father's jaw tightened, his voice dropping dangerously low. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us. I met his stare without blinking. What exactly have you done for me? I paid for my own education. I built my own career. I paid off my student loans by myself. Meanwhile, you've covered Mia's credit card debt, her failed ventures, her endless disasters, and now you've committed fraud to buy her a luxury car she can't afford. We gave you everything, my mother snapped. We raised you. We provided for you. That deserves respect. You provided the bare minimum required by law, and you've made me pay for it ever since. Mia shot to her feet, her chair scraping sharply against the floor. You think you're so perfect? You think you're better than all of us? Newsflash, Rachel. Nobody likes you. Even your ex left because you're cold and calculating. My ex didn't leave because of me. He left because he had been cheating with Mia. A fact they didn't know I was aware of. I didn't react. I didn't need to. My father's voice turned to ice. If you continue with this nonsense, you are no longer part of this family. No more holidays. No more inheritance. No more connection to the Morgan name. The threat that would have once shattered me now felt strangely weightless. You're asking me to choose between paying for a $70,000 car I never agreed to buy and staying connected to a family that forges my signature, violates my finances, and treats me with contempt. I rose from the table, neatly folding my napkin and placing it beside my untouched plate. That's not a difficult choice. I turned and walked toward the door. My mother called after me. Desperate now. Mia needs that car. What is she supposed to do? I paused at the threshold, finally feeling the clarity I'd been chasing for years. She can do what I did, buy a car she can actually afford, and I left without looking back. I left my parents' house that evening without regret. But I knew the battle wasn't over. I had set a boundary they never thought I was capable of enforcing, and I was fully prepared for the storm that would follow. It didn't take long. 48 hours later, Mia's world came crashing down in front of her own camera. She was live streaming from a cafe, perched on the hood of the BMW, telling her followers about self-care and family support when the repossession agent arrived. The look on her face as she realized what was happening was something I would never forget. The agent, calm and methodical, informed her that the vehicle would be seized immediately due to defaulted loan terms and confirmed fraud. The live stream didn't cut out. It captured everything: the escalating panic in Mia's voice, her desperate attempts to convince the agent to give her more time, her frantic calls to my parents that went unanswered in that moment. Her followers watched in real time as the car was driven away, the screen filling with comments ranging from confusion to sympathy to cruel curiosity. Within hours, Mia posted a tearful video on every platform she could access. She painted herself as the victim of a heartless sister who had sabotaged her life out of jealousy. She never mentioned the forged signature. She never mentioned the fraud. Her version of the story was simple. I promised her the car, then cruelly took it away. The narrative spread like wildfire. Suddenly, distant relatives who hadn't spoken to me in years were sending me accusatory messages. Friends of the family posted vague, self-righteous statuses about the importance of forgiveness and how blood should always come before pride. Strangers left comments on my locked social accounts, some pleading with me to make things right, others attacking me with words I won't repeat. But what they didn't know was that I no longer cared about public opinion. The next attack came swiftly and directly through my career. My mother called my boss, Sandra, at my firm. According to Sandra, my mother painted me as mentally unstable, financially reckless, and unfit to handle complex client accounts. She suggested that my personal issues were beginning to interfere with my professional responsibilities. Sandra called me that evening. Your mother reached out to me today. She was trying so hard to sound concerned. But honestly, Rachel, it was the most transparent manipulation I've ever heard. I don't believe a word of it. I felt a wave of gratitude, mixed with exhaustion. Thank you for telling me. You don't owe me thanks. You deserve to have people who see you clearly. Her support solidified something inside me. I wasn't losing everything, I was shedding what was never real. Meanwhile, Natalie, my lawyer, contacted me with news. My family's attorney had reached out with a settlement offer. The message was clear: they wanted this to end. The terms were straightforward. My parents would cover all my legal fees. They would sign notarized statements admitting to the forgery and agreeing to permanent, legally binding restrictions from accessing my financial records, accounts, or assets. In return, I would agree not to press criminal charges. They're running scared, Natalie said. The evidence is undeniable. They're more afraid of public exposure and potential criminal records than they are of losing you. It wasn't about guilt. It wasn't about love. It was about control. And now they were losing it. I sat with the offer for 2 days, weighing the cost. Part of me wanted justice in its harshest form. I wanted to see them face the legal system they thought they could outmaneuver. But a louder part of me wanted peace. I didn't need them in handcuffs. I needed them out of my life. I accepted the settlement, not out of mercy, not out of kindness, out of exhaustion, out of clarity. I wanted this chapter closed, permanently. Natalie handled the paperwork swiftly. Within days, the settlement was signed, sealed, and legally enforced. They paid the fees. They signed the admissions. And just like that, the door was finally locked. What surprised me most wasn't their compliance. It was the silence that followed. No calls, no texts, no more attempts to spin the story. They retreated, at least temporarily, realizing perhaps that their usual weapons no longer worked on me. I wasn't their silent supporter anymore. I wasn't their safety net. I wasn't their invisible wallet. I was done. The silence that followed the settlement was unlike anything I'd experienced with my family. For the first time in my life, there were no more demands, no more carefully worded manipulations, no more guilt-soaked phone calls. They simply stopped. And in that stillness, something inside me began to settle, as though I had finally stepped out from under a weight I didn't know I'd been carrying my entire life. 6 months passed, and in those months, I quietly rebuilt what they had spent years eroding. Work became a refuge, not a distraction. Without the constant drain of family emergencies and fabricated crises, I thrived. I completed the largest architectural project of my career, leading a team that respected me, not for my patience or sacrifice, but for my ability. I was promoted, not because I overextended myself to prove something, but because I had finally allowed myself to grow in the absence of their control. With the space they left behind, I poured myself into new connections. I rekindled friendships I had allowed to wither under the pressure of family obligations. I joined a weekend volunteer group, helping renovate community spaces for low-income families. It was the kind of work that didn't ask me to be perfect or wealthy. It asked me to show up, to contribute, to care. I realized that real connection wasn't transactional. It didn't hinge on what I could provide. It blossomed from who I was when I was simply present. Slowly, I began to hear from people I hadn't expected. Distant cousins I barely remembered sent quiet messages, some to offer support, some to confess that they, too, had been on the receiving end of my parents' manipulation, though perhaps in smaller ways. I wasn't the first. I probably wouldn't be the last. But I had been the first to say no, and that had rippled through the family like a fracture in glass. It wasn't just me who had been trapped in the performance of loyalty. Others had worn the mask, too. And then, one evening, as I was preparing to leave the office, I received a text from Mia. It was short, without punctuation, as if typed hastily, or maybe after a long hesitation. "They're asking me to cover Mom's fundraiser. Dad says I should take out a personal loan if I care about the family's image. You were right. I can't afford it. I don't know what to do." I stared at the message for a long time. 6 months ago, that text would have pulled me back in. I would have felt responsible. I would have tried to fix it, to shield her, to carry it for her. But not now. Mia would have to decide for herself. She would have to choose whether to continue the cycle or break it. I didn't reply. I deleted the message and placed my phone face down on the table, allowing the silence to reclaim its rightful place in my life. I wasn't angry with her. I wasn't bitter. I just knew, deep in my bones, that this was not mine to carry anymore. Not long after, I attended a family event, not one of theirs, but a celebration held by my volunteer group. We gathered to mark the completion of a community center renovation, something that, months before, I would never have had time or emotional space for. As I walked through the newly painted halls, I was greeted with warm smiles, genuine conversations, and a sense of belonging that didn't come with invoices or expectations. For the first time, I felt what family was supposed to feel like. There were no hidden costs here, no conditions, no silent ledgers where kindnesses were tallied and weaponized. Aunt Lillian, one of the few relatives who had quietly stood by me during the storm, later invited me to a small dinner at her home. Over roasted vegetables and homemade bread, she shared stories of my mother's relentless need for control, stories that mirrored my own but had long been buried in polite silence. "I always thought I was the problem," she confessed, pouring us each a cup of tea. "But maybe some people simply measure worth in things they can take, not in what they can nurture." Her words lingered with me, a gentle validation that I didn't know I had needed. Seasons changed, and life moved forward. I found comfort in the quiet routines of my own choosing morning runs along the river, reading in sunlit corners of my apartment, weekends spent working with my hands instead of writing checks. Mia sent one more message, months later, this time through a mutual acquaintance since she knew she could no longer reach me directly. "Just wanted you to know I didn't take the loan. I told them no. It's harder than I thought it would be. But I think I understand now." There was no apology, no plea for reconnection, just a simple thread of acknowledgement. I smiled, not out of satisfaction, but out of quiet recognition. Each of us has to find our own door out of the cage, and some doors can only be opened from the inside. I didn't reply to that message either. I didn't need to. She was on her own journey now, as I had been. Looking back, I realized I hadn't lost my family. I had simply stepped out of a prison they had called love. What I gained was a life that belonged wholly to me. I no longer needed to prove my worth. I no longer needed to buy my place at any table. I no longer needed to explain why I was stepping away. Some truths stand on their own. Some battles are won not in courtrooms or arguments, but in the quiet, unshakable decision to walk away. As I left the office that evening, the winter air was crisp, carrying the subtle scent of snow. I locked the door behind me, feeling the solid click of the mechanism as it sealed. I slipped the key into my pocket, straightened my coat, and walked forward, each step steady, certain, and wholly mine. Because dignity is never something that can be taken, and real worth never needs permission to exist.